it reloads and it updates everything. So it just makes development super easy, super fast, and actually that we use that in React Native as well. This hot reloading, it just makes it really quick to do changes and see those changes right away without having to rebuild the entire application from scratch every single time like you would have to do with native iOS development. And then here we just have this div right here with an ID of root. So we're injecting our React, which is just JavaScript, into our HTML via this root tag. And if you can see, we can see our source. So if we go to our index file, this is the index.js is the first file that that our application is looking for to load, and we can see React DOM.render, and we're going to render our app, and we're going to look for document.getElement by ID root. So this is just plain JavaScript, which will work on in any browser, and it's going to insert this app document into the root. So the root is right here, an ID of root, and it's going to insert this app. So if we just follow this this documentation, we can just find this app. So app is from ./app. So in this same folder, we're going to find .app. So we have app.js, and this is the app component that's being loaded into index.js, which is being loaded into the HTML document. And so I think it's, if you haven't done React, if you have done React before, you could kind of like fast forward for this. This is you've done this before, but I think it's good to know how React started. It started just in the web world, and then kind of transferred over to native development a few years later. But I still use both in the web environment and in iOS and in Android. So all the logic is all the same. So you'll see this class. It creates a class called app, and it extends the component from the React library. So this is the importing of the React library itself. So we have the accessibility to the component, so we're going to create a new component. So you could think of a component as a whole page, or you could think of a component as just a button. It depends on how you code it. Like I said a couple videos ago, there's no like hard and fast rules around React and JavaScript. There's some best practices, and we'll go over that along the way. But that's what also makes React super flexible, and you can kind of handle it however you want. And as you can see in this application, they handled it. They did a little bit of styling already. They have app.css and then a testing. So for every component, they have a test file, the component itself, and then styling for that component. And you can see that they're importing the styling via ./app, so it's in the same folder, and it's called app.css, and that's where we get our styling from. And so this right here looks exactly like regular CSS, because, well, it is regular CSS, and that's kind of what makes it awesome. So you're importing regular CSS into this JavaScript component. So if we looked more deeply into this app component, you can see, okay, we see this app extends component, and it's rendering and returning what looks like to be HTML. We have a div tag, we have a header tag, we have an image tag, a p tag. This is all HTML elements, but then we have class name. In regular HTML, it's just class. So this is where it differs a little bit. Instead of just referring to a class from your CSS, as in regular CS or regular HTML, would just be class equals app, and then that would work. But since this is JSX, not HTML, JSX is kind of importing JavaScript. It makes it look like HTML, but this is all JavaScript, and that's why we have to use this custom class name component to import our classes. And it's the same thing for styling. So if you wanted to do styling in regular HTML, you would do styling equals, let's do padding dash top 50 pixels. And so that would work in regular HTML. But in JSX, it would be padding top and then just 50. And instead of quotes, you would have to do these brackets. So we have to do padding top 50 pixels, and then we want to load, we can see that now there's this white space which is 50 pixels tall, and that's because we put in our styling. If we remove one of the brackets, that wouldn't work. And then if we were to do regular quotes, that wouldn't work either, because it's not JSX. It's not HTML, it's JSX. So it has to have specific syntax in order to work correctly. And then we go down header tags. So all the tags are still the same. So we still have regular div tags, we have regular header tags, we have image tags, p tags, h1 tag, h2, and etc. But some of the components within those tags are a little bit different. If we scroll down to this image tag, for instance, we could see our first instance of just JavaScript being used in HTML, or what looks to be HTML. We have, since we're calling this component logo, our logo SVG is in right here. So this is an SVG file just pulling in directly from the same folder. So obviously you wouldn't be able to do this in just regular HTML. You would have to use jQuery and inject that image into the tag, or use quotes instead, and then do ./logo.svg. So that's how it would look in regular HTML, but since it's JSX, it's a little bit different. And notice how it's a single bracket, since we're already we're importing it. If we're doing it inline, anything inline has to be double brackets. And I wouldn't worry about all the specifics right now, but I just wanted to do a super basic example to go over some of the differences between HTML and JSX, which is what React uses. And then edit code, so everything down here, class name, we already went over that, href is the same, target is the same. A lot of it's still the same, but we're creating a JavaScript component, and then we could use JavaScript inside of this component itself. And that's what we're going to do in the next lesson. We're going to do a little counter, so that we're going to just use some JavaScript in this component and be able to change the counter from 1, 2, 3, 4 and up and down, and then it changes right away. So where you would usually use jQuery to find an element, update that element's number, and then re-render that component, what React does instead is it checks a state, a main state, and if that state changes, there's an automatic re-render of the entire document. So you don't have to worry about certain things not updating. React takes care of that, and that's kind of what the beauty of React is. It always is rendering the most up-to-date state, and if anything changes, it re-renders the whole thing. And there's a diffing algorithm that's super fast, so it's a lot faster. The more amount of data you have, it doesn't really make a difference, because the algorithm is so fast that these things changes so quickly. And then we're going to go a small example on that in the next video. See ya.